course, this is where the rubber hits the road. Our policies, our plans, accelerators, our subnational contexts, then of course we're not going to be delivering on the ambitions of Agenda 2030.
The challenge in it is to ensure that the resources are used effectively to achieve results. Country-level actions, reforms, and innovations are and will be the drivers for financing development towards 2030.
The Philippines' commitment to our shared goal of sustainable development in the 2030 Agenda is the Philippine Development Plan, Ambition 2040. The Philippines seeks to achieve a Filipino society that is stable and comfortable, a nation whose people are among others free from poverty and hunger, have their own homes, enjoy convenient means of transport, have enough resources and savings for both day-to-day and unexpected expenses, and have long and healthy lives. Ambition Natin 2040 is an ambitious plan indeed. It is easily met with pessimists. Our answer to that is we intend to deliver the needed financing through reforms in the tax policy and tax administration, as well as through prudent and sustainable debt management.
They've been here for the whole 3 days. I was told very nicely by them that they're not artists, they are graphic recorders. So what they do is actually record discussions and actually in a very innovative way try to do it in a way that people actually will read what is being said and what is really key summary. So it's a great way of doing it. Actually, we're part here of a knowledge exchange, so we're trying to capture knowledge a little bit different and in a kind of a new innovative ways.
Private sector plays different roles in different areas, so the idea is not to say private sector is the answer to everything. It's the answer to some things more obviously, like food production or financial inclusion, and the role is more challenging and more context specific in areas like infrastructure or social services. And our idea is not to say this is right or wrong, the idea is to find out what works, how we can use the private sector and where we can use the private sector to achieve a goal, and then do that. Sometimes it's actually the private sector who approaches us in things like extractive or some agri sectors to work with us, not because they really need our money, but because they need our expertise to make sure that projects are delivered in an environmental and socially sustainable way.
As we also deal with innovative and new ways of financing, the issue about risk has to come to the table, because I think we have to think about risk differently in terms of how do we not only minimize risk or kind of, don't fund areas that are risky, but can we do things to also overcome some of these challenges, really to invest in the core challenges that are faced under the SDGs.
While private sector organisations have always played a part in the role of delivery of Australian aid, whether through and primarily through being the procurement of goods and services, we've adopted a new shared value approach, which is bringing together business, civil society and governments for sustainable solutions to development challenges. We're still learning and we're adapting and we're drawing out lessons. Shared value provides a way to harness the core motivation and strengths of businesses. Companies that take this approach build business models based around social goods as a strategy to find and compete in new markets. This framework recognises that the private sector will always be driven by profit, and that those businesses with sustainable social impact at their core will have a competitive advantage, particularly if the enabling and regulatory environment favours them.
At the private sector lens, what is unique is really the ability to deploy capital and the discipline to use this capital in a way that it's used very efficiently, and that there has to be returns. And that is the beauty of working on sustainability at the private sector.
about the Global Partnership for Effective Development Cooperation. It is a unique multi-stakeholder platform that brings together governments, development partners, private sector, civil society organizations, parliamentarians, trade unions, philanthropic organizations, and local governments within the context of development cooperation. And they have adapted the renewed vision, so to speak, of the global partnership to maximize the effectiveness of all forms of cooperation for development for the shared benefits of people, planet, prosperity, and peace.
We just wanted to pose a discussion point to try to collectively think about how monitoring effective development cooperation can support the implementation of the SDGs. We have seen through the day that the development partners and other actors can have a catalytic effect on how the development finance that we can put together can be transformed into the results of the Agenda 2030.
As part of the CSO movement, we are demanding for time-bound commitments for enabling environment, upholding the genuine multi-stakeholder nature of the country-level partnership, emphasizing that the government should not or stop giving preferential treatment to businesses if this is an equal partnership among all independent actors. CSOs call for the role of the private sector in development cooperation to be consistent and accountable with the effective development cooperation principles, as well as in labor, environmental, and other human rights standards. There is a broader need for all stakeholders to come all together to actually monitor the human rights commitments as well as ensure accountability and transparency in the context of development cooperation program.
Countries are faced with a mammoth challenge of maneuvering the requirements of different funds and the need to coordinate internally and externally with a range of players. So for us, this is why development effectiveness and coordination is extremely important. Now what we will do is continue to use this platform and the lessons learned from the Forum Compact process as a key regional tool for monitoring and accountability for SDG 17 and the means of implementation.
We are no longer this north-south kind of environment, that we are now having diverse partners and corporations and types and instruments, meaning that some of those types and instruments have a different characteristics, different sort of a role to play. So how is the principles of effective development cooperation translated that into much more concrete actions for policy change, the behavior change? How can we really adapt the monitoring to capture some of those progress or some of the challenges and so on? So refinement, updating of the global partnership monitoring framework that we will be going through in the next few months or even a little bit longer. We very much encourage you to be really part of this discussion, because it's not that we know everything, it's really about hearing and getting your thoughts as to how to make that measurement and the refinement and the scope actually really make it stronger.
How do we achieve economic growth where benefits are shared widely while ensuring environmental sustainability? So a lot of this discussion has focused around how can we take more integrated approaches, ensuring that the 3 dimensions of sustainable development are being considered. There was a lot of discussion how we can identify but also address some of the trade-offs and also identify some of the synergies for accelerating progress along the SDGs.
What are we doing right and what we needed to do better? Okay, and I think the key, one of the key issues that we should not make this just an annual gathering. What's important is what will happen in between the knowledge exchanges. Right? We cannot wait to share experience. Thank you very much for your support, and we look forward to continue this partnership.
At the end of the day, the SDGs mean more in terms of the target, the beneficiary, more than anything else. But again, qualified in our context, we would call it the last mile. In fact, before going to the last mile, we have more to attend to, you know, the lower middle income, the poor, and then the marginalized, which are really part of the SDGs. The question now is actually, what is most meaningful in terms of making our governments responsive to the needs of the larger majority? And therefore, the SDGs is a framework. But at the end of the day, the localization of the SDGs, particularly in terms of indicators that we will be accountable for, first and foremost, is our accountability to our own citizens. The Philippine government, our congratulations to UNDP, the senior government officials from Asia and the Pacific, participating development partners, and private sector and civil society organization representatives for this well-attended regional exchange.